Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
How much red tape can a small business bear? The federal government has brought in new rules about making it compulsory for the directors of every company, large and small, to register for a new public database. And it must be done personally, not by your accountant or lawyer. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. The CEO of the Small Business Association of Australia, Anne Nalder, says the new National Company Directors Register will actually work to protect many small businesses and sole traders. She starts by explaining how it will all work to Jeff Waters.
A director's identification number is an ID that every director within Australia who operates a company, whether that company is a foreign company or a local company, must need an ID. Sole traders do not need that particular ID. And directors, for example, who were appointed from the 1st of November 2021 must apply for an ID within 28 days. If they were appointed, if you were, for example, a director before the 31st of October 2021, you have until the 30th of November 2022. But if you're starting out brand new, you're going to form a company, etc., you must apply for the ID beforehand, and that's before you actually get your company registered. And directors must apply themselves. They can't have anybody else, for example, their accountants or a lawyer or somebody else do that for them. They must apply themselves directly.
So every single small business director in Australia now has to fill in this form and register?
They certainly do, depending on at what time you became a director for the dates that I just mentioned. So in Australia, for example, you've got currently actively trading about 2.4 million small businesses, individual small businesses. But within those businesses, you've also got around 700,000 sole traders. So they don't need to register, but there still remains a lot of directors that need to register to get their ID. But that applies also to large corporations as well. In other words, every single company, regardless of the size, every director who operates a business, regardless of the size, will require a special ID. And you can do this either online, by phone or paper. And they can go to the ATO's website to download the information, how to apply for that ID.
Why does the government say these changes are necessary?
Well, they've got a valid reason. Personally, most of us hate more and more regulation. It's a fact of life, because it becomes burdensome, it's costly, all the rest of it. It ties us up, etc. But there are people within the industry that do the wrong thing. The idea is to track directors. There are, for example, things like Phoenix companies, and it's particularly prevalent in the building industry where something goes wrong, they close the company down and they restart the next day, leaving tradies and a lot of other people out of pocket, etc. There's also other directors that have the legitimate company, the registered company, but they also have a company to the side of it that is not registered, for example. And then they, for example, the money that they earn, they might put, let's say they receive a revenue of $50,000. They might put $30,000 in the legitimate business and $20,000 into the other business, meaning they're paying no tax, avoiding tax. So there are reasons why they are doing this. Unfortunately, for a few, it ties up everybody else's hands, but I think generally it's to prevent as much fraud and the wrongdoing as much as possible.
So how will this all relate to the Australian Business Registry?
Well, what it'll do, it'll streamline things. ASIC will be able to, and including the tax office. Let's say, for example, you're a director of 3 companies, and you might be doing the right thing in 1 or 2 companies, but not in another. But the tax office will be able to link all of this together, and you'll be able to keep an eye out on any dodgy deals, fraudulent activity, etc. So it is to streamline the whole thing. And it'll be a bit like your ABN. When you do an invoice, for example, you must have your Australian business number on there. And the same will apply, I suppose, on certain forms. For example, if you have to sign as a director, you'll have an ID number, and that will be a legitimate legal signature. So anybody that doesn't have one of those will obviously mean that their company isn't properly complying with the requirements. So I think it is to bring a more streamlined and a more honest situation within companies, large and small.
What would you say to small business owners who just think this is another layer of red tape?
Well, I do agree that it could be considered as red tape, and it is a bit of red tape, but I think in this case it's probably not a bad red tape, because in reality we have to have some laws and rules and regulations. We can't just have open slather, and when people do the wrong thing, whether it's in business or in any other industry, it gives the rest of the industry a bad name. And most business owners try to do the right thing, but because of a few, governments feel they must to sort this thing out. It also will help streamline taxation issues, possibly prevent the hiding of taxation money, like we have situations where people hide their money in the various tax havens, etc. So I think you'll find it's a combination of everything where they will try and make it a more honest and a more transparent situation.
Have you seen the method of registering? Is it onerous in any way?
No, I haven't seen it as yet. As I said, you've got 3 ways that you can do it. You will have to show proof, identification in certain areas. So it's not just a question of registering the whole thing. When you fill out, you can either do it online, by phone or by paper. But you will have to prove who you are, and you will have to show that proof when you're filling out that particular form, when you upload that information. So it's not just a question of you and I just going and filling out a form. There will be requirements to prove who we are, etc. From what I have seen, it doesn't appear to be a difficult process.
And I suppose it would protect small businesses from being ripped off by perhaps like these Phoenix companies from larger organisations.
Well, one would hope so. It's not how I see it'll work. For example, if you want government contracts, whether you're large or small, you'll need to have your ID. So that makes that more legitimate, means you're registered. I do believe that people should do their due diligence, for example, when dealing with a company, to make sure that that company is registered. And you can do this, for example, even today. If you're going to do business with somebody, you can check out the ABN register. That's the Australian business number, and that's available to everybody. And so you can see whether that company is legally trading, regardless of whether that is a company or another form of business like a sole trader. All businesses that are trading should have an ABN number. They don't have to have one, but they should. And so if you want to check out if a business is legitimate, you can go to the ABN register. The same will apply with the company director's identification. So I think that in itself is good, and I do urge people to do their due diligence. Don't just accept the numbers.
That was Anne Nalder, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Australia. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.